Hello. Welcome to the first episode of this fake podcast we've got going on.
Oh
Um,
God, this is how we're gonna run it.
why not, man? At this point, like,
Yeah,
we
sure.
we might as well make it entertaining.
Yeah,
Um,
alright.
Today we're gonna be talking about Dark Souls 3, which is a game very near and dear to both of our hearts. I think. This is Gavin, my friend who got me into the game.
Yeah. I
And
exist.
he does do that. He does do that.
I do that.
For a brief summary, and feel free to interject because it's been a while since I've played the game. Um, the basis is that there was like an age of dragons that ruled over the land. There were
Yes.
these
The
ultra
Age of
powerful,
Gray.
yeah, super
For in the
powerful
beginning, there
dragons
was no light nor dark, only dragons and the far-spanning forest.
until the self-proclaimed gods lit the first flame, and
Actually, the first flame came into existence itself, and the gods were born from it.
all right. The gods were born from the first flame, right? And then there was an age of prosperity until the flame started to like dwindle a little bit and started to like grow darker, right? And basically what had to happen was that powerful souls had to be sacrificed in order to like quote unquote link the flame and continue this like
Along the
prosperous
fire,
age.
essentially.
Yeah, so Dark Souls is about your character who has been summoned basically to ensure that the linking of the fire happens and that this age continues by finding the previous people who have linked the fire and forcing them to do it again because nobody else wants to do it. It literally
Because
like, kills
everyone's
you.
like, I don't want to sacrifice my life to prolong this age that is just decrepit and dying. That's kind of cringe.
Right. So like the central theme of the game is kind of like these lords of cinder or whatever, the lords of the thrones abandoning their duty and your character having to go and find them and kind of force them to continue this age. Very oppressive system where like humanity is basically forced to assist the linking of this fire in a very like,
Greatly their own
age.
detriment.
Right. For the style, the tone, and the voice of the game, this game like is obviously very medieval. I've put an image on screen of some of the gameplay.
Oh yeah,
here.
has very like medieval, like dark gothic, that like dark
Yes.
Middle Ages kind of bullshit going on.
Gothic is a great word to describe it. It's like all swords, shields, very
Ancient arcane magics and just twisted beasts trapped in metal and with armor fused with sinew. It goes hard.
yes, it does. I think that the style and the tone are very like very important to show that while this once was like a beautiful age, it's really dwindling and starting to decay a
Like
little bit.
a little bit, bro. There, like the final area is a giant sinkhole basically surrounding the kiln of the first flame, where it's
Right.
kept.
Okay.
Like time itself is tearing itself apart in certain areas in the game because of this like desperate grasp at prolonging this age.
And the interesting thing about the voice is that your character doesn't speak. Like all that you do in the game is
Grunt.
actions. So your voice and your impact on the story is like entirely what you do. But you do have a lot of like choice with that. Like your character will affect the future of this world.
Yeah, in the third game, since this is the third in the series, this is actually basically the finale of the series, and it's where your character actually has the most choice.
Right.
With like 4 or 5 different endings. And in the first game, you only have 2 choices. Don't link the first flame or link it. But the canonical ending for the first game is that the first flame is linked. Because if you don't, there's tons of other undead servants that are brought from their death to do the same goal you're supposed to do.
I think that's kind of like the purpose of the story is that it is a video game. You're playing through the story, but you do like kind of have a choice of whether or not you want to continue this dwindling.
You are a
age.
cog in the machine, but you can become greater than it.
Yeah.
You could change the machine itself. which could be seen in like the bringing forth the Age of Darkness ending, and also the Lord of Hollows ending, where you absorb the power of the First Flame to become the Lord of the Undead and try to forge a better future for humanity.
Right. And that's like one of the constraints with the game is the fact that it is a game, so you can't really like show everything or have just like dialogue for hours, but your character's like actions really you're the one taking the actions, so you really like feel the weight of your choices.
But the funny thing is, all of this lore that we've been spouting on about, very minimal is actually explained to you. Like the whole like how humanity came to be, that's explained in the first game. In the third game, what all you are told in is that you are the Ashen One, and you need to bring the Lords of Cinder to their thrones because they don't want to, and you need to link the First Flame. Because basically everyone's been like brainwashed to do like repeat this cycle for so long.
I think that's part of like the exigency or urgency too, is that the player actually has to go get the story fragments and piece it together themselves.
Yeah, like story, like 99% of the story in the game is like given to you through like the descriptions of items and weapons you pick up in the world. When you kill a boss, you will acquire their soul, and their soul will have a description of like, this was a mighty warrior in his day and age, but those times have long passed. Furthermore, you can even forge those souls into weapons, giving you even further insight towards certain bosses that sometimes you wouldn't even have a second thought about otherwise.
Right. Alright, we've only got 2 points left to talk about. The first of those is the audience. I mean, we're the audience. We're people who want to like have a lot of action in the games, but also care about the story and care enough to like find the items and piece together everything.
Like the story's not in your face like at all, and it's just basically a super difficult game. But the fact that it has such a deep and rich story is so enticing that it spawns so many lore channels.
Yeah, so the intended audience of the game is people who like care enough to like actually find the story and like really want to engage with it. What do you think about the effectiveness? How effective is Dark Souls at getting this point across?
Getting its point across? That's the interesting thing about Dark Souls, I'd argue. 'Cause like on some point, it's like, alright, when you look into it, you're like, okay, this is basically a decrepit world run by cruel gods who are grasping at the last straws of their power. But it doesn't really tell you this all too often. But once you like read like a lore description like saying that, the final boss of the first game, Gwyn, Lord of the First Flame, he's a decrepit old man with a giant fire sword. And you're like, why is there a decrepit old man with a giant fire sword? And then you learn he is the god who is clinging on to the last bit of his power desperately. The design intertwines with the story so well, even though the story is not super upfront with you.
Yeah, it makes you work for it. And I think that overall the game was like super effective in the fact that literally any game now that has like a sword and a roll, it doesn't even have to be medieval. They're called Souls-like. It like literally spawned an entire genre because of like how impactful this game was to everybody.
Yeah, because part of it is like, you are in a decrepit, horrible world, and the difficulty reflects that, because everything sucks. Everyone's trying to kill you. You might find like 3 good people, a few half-decent people, but everyone else is gonna be like, is just some like either insane, corrupted, part of a evil cult, or like one of the last like remaining gods who just are like basically testing you to see if you're strong enough to prolong the flame. Because you have to literally kill yourself to prolong this cycle.
I think that's a pretty good place to leave it off on. Dark Souls sucks. It's insanely hard. I hate it, but I love it very much, to the point where we have to like actively hold ourselves back. Otherwise, this podcast would be 30 minutes long, an hour long.
Oh,
easily.
unironically, we could be here for hours, bro. Just talking about like one boss, bro. Don't make me go on about Ornstein smoke.
We gotta cut him off. We gotta cut him off. Thank you to whoever decides to listen to this. That's pretty much it. That's all we've. Well, that's not all
Good
we've
night,
got to say.
tri-state area.
Good night, tri-state area. Good night, Lordran. Good night, all of the Dark Souls out there. See ya.